Search for a place to belong. Search in vain. Search in fear. Is your spirit everywhere? Is your voice every tree? Soul of the air. If there's no home, is there no death? Is there no death? Is there no death? So small, take me where I don't need to stand so.
Good evening, and thank you for taking the time this evening to join us on our Parents Information Evening. And this is for all parents of New Year 7 Trinity students. I'd just like to run a few things before we get started. First of all, as we go through this event, you may have some questions. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to answer any questions that you may have. And at the end of this event, we'll answer some of the most frequent questions that are asked. Clearly, we won't have time to answer every question, but what we will do is email out all the questions and answers after the presentation. I'd also like to point out that this meeting is recorded, so that if you miss anything or if there's any sort of internet disruption, you'll be able to watch it later. Could we have the next slide, please? Okay, as you can see, we're all getting to grips with the technical details of this. It is our first webinar, but we are excited to welcome you as parents to our school community. My name is Dr. Nottingham. I'm the Deputy Head Teacher. I'm also the Designated Safeguard Lead. We'll hear very shortly from Mr. Bailey, the Head Teacher. We'll also hear from Miss Garrett, who's the Head of Phase 1. And we'll have question and answers session moderated by Mrs. Potter, the Head of Maths. So without any further ado, I'll pass us on to Mr. Bailey, the Head Teacher of Trinity Academy.
Good evening. Very good to see you. I'm in charge of the PowerPoint, so anything that goes wrong with the PowerPoint, it's entirely my fault. We never thought we would be welcoming you to Trinity Academy quite like this, but we are welcoming you, and we're really excited to get to meet you. We've met some of you already virtually, and we are preparing very thoroughly for your arrival in September, whatever that looks like. And we know in these uncertain times that's still we're still unsure exactly what that looks like, but a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining our webinar. And as Dr. Nottingham said, please put up with our technical issues. Right. We are part of a family of schools, and I guess the key thing about that for you as parents is that Trinity Academy doesn't stand alone. Trinity Academy is very closely related to Bristol Cathedral Choir School and St Catherine's School, which means that we support each other, we challenge each other, we work together, and our goal, the bottom line of everything we do is that we have a better outcomes for our young people. So when Bristol Cathedral Choir School are doing something great in English, they share it with us, or they come and look at our English work and say, maybe think about doing this, or here's something we've done which has worked really well. Great to be in a trust with primary schools as well. It really helps us to make sure that transition from year 6 to 7 works well, but also, and more importantly for us, is the sense that actually your child's learning right from year 5 to 6 to 7 and 8 needs to feel like a continuum, both in terms of the culture across the trust, but also in terms of what we teach you. Trinity Academy has a really clear mission statement and 3 really clear values. And tonight, we know that you've heard these before. You've been to induction evenings and you've been to open events, so you've got a flavour of what we're about. But Trinity Academy, for us, our mission is to create a world-class school. As such, we expect that all members of our community seek to become the best versions of themselves. So really important for us that it's not just about the students becoming the best version, but we want to be the best versions of ourselves as teachers. And Trinity Academy, as a community, wants to be the best version of itself. And to do that, we want to develop our head and our heart and our soul. And as you grow into the academy and grow into the community, those are our 3 key words. And for us, head is a place of learning, heart is a place of care and respect, and soul is a place of engagement. And our goal is that our students will become ultimately successful and happily employed in a career with prospects. Okay, we know that actually it's about finding your passion and going for that, and we want you to make sure you get to where you want to be as a person, as somebody with a career, but also we want to create citizens with a passion, a burning passion to serve their communities. That's what this school is about. As I said, we are about head, heart and soul, but behind that, take a step back from that, we believe that a school should be educating the whole person. We don't think that Trinity Academy is a exam factory. We're not here just to get students through exams. In fact, quite the opposite. We believe that education is about showing our love for the world and our passion for education, about developing the character of our young people in terms of their heart, and giving them flavors of getting engaged in things. For us, the logo of Trinity is really important as well. It's a crown, and our job as a school is to celebrate and to draw out the very best of people, and in the sense to crown them with that. So that's who we are. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Nottingham, and very important that this evening is in conjunction with the booklet that we sent you, and lots of information in there. So we're going to go into some detail now about Trinity Academy to make sure you feel confident and happy in terms of joining us for September. So I'll hand over to Dr. Nottingham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. So I'm going to be spending about 10-15 minutes talking about what we mean by Trinity Academy, a place of learning. And we're really talking about that first prong on the crown that's being shown here. Could I have the next slide, please? There we go. Okay, so we are extremely confident that that every child who comes to Trinity Academy is going to make strong academic progress. We spend a lot of time planning what we consider to be a strong, rigorous curriculum. And as Mr. Bailey said, we have a number of schools in the trust that we can draw ideas from and develop from there. Our curriculum has a strong emphasis on the performing arts. And we as a teaching team meet every week to discuss what and how we teach. And we carefully monitor the progress of every child at Trinity Academy and make sure that the parents are up to date with the progress of each child and how they're supported. Please could I have the next slide, please? And your child will be starting with us in Year 7 very shortly, and they'll be with us for at least 5 to 7 years. And we break that journey down into 3 phases. Phase 1, Year 7 to 8, is where students are learning to learn. They learn what we call the Trinity way, the set of expectations and behaviours which will make them the best versions of themselves. And within that period of time, they'll spend they'll start to discuss about their potential careers and their career prospects and their aspirations. They'll also be engaged in co-curricular activities, clubs after school, at least 3 days a week. And they'll be taught, for the most part, in form groups, so they become sort of a very strong bond between individuals within their form groups. Please could I have the next slide? And so here we have the range of subjects that every child is taught between Year 7 and 8 in Phase 1. About half the time is spent on the core subjects of English, maths and science. And science is broken up into individual disciplines of biology, physics and chemistry. And every child will study Spanish. We place particular emphasis on the performing arts, and every child will have 2 lessons of art and music, along with 1 lesson of dance. Every child studies a range of the humanities, geography, history, religion, ethics, and philosophy. And we have an extended tutor period per week where they're able to develop ideas around their personal, social, and mental well-being. And an afternoon every week, the children will go to the Lockleys Sports Centre for games, of which Mr. Bailey will talk a little bit more about later. Next slide, please. Now, what will lessons be like for your child as they enter our school? Well, the first thing is there isn't a standard lesson. It will be dependent on the teacher that's teaching and the topic they're learning. But your child might start to see that there's common themes between the teachers. We focus on 4 academic skills. First one is extended writing, and that's not just in English, but your child will be encouraged to complete extended writing in history, in religious studies, and in science. We also place a lot of value on oracy, being able to articulate your thoughts to a public. And we encourage in every lesson there be an element of either reading out loud or presenting results to the class. We also have particular emphasis on quizzing. We believe that learning isn't a single event. You need to repeatedly quiz yourself in order for facts and information to become securely learned. And the last thing we place particular emphasis on is note making. Often we ask children to write notes whilst the teacher is talking, or whilst they're watching an educational video, or whilst they're reading. Now, this is probably the hardest skill, and we walk students through that to make sure that they're able to do that productively. Next slide, please. So how do we monitor progress whilst your child is with us? Well, the first thing is we want to make sure we know everything we can about your child, particularly given the circumstance where their year 6 education has been affected by the ongoing public health emergency. We want to find out what their academic strengths are and what their potential gaps in learning have been. And as a result, we ask all new year 7 children at the start of the year to take a series of online assessments held within school that require no preparation. And those range of assessments give us a really clear idea of where potential gaps might be in their learning and also their academic strengths. And it helps us plan for the year ahead. Students will complete a range of assessments in every subject at the end of every term. So that's in December, in March, and in July. And we can use those assessments to gauge how well they're doing academically. And we publish reports both to you, and we will provide feedback to students in class after those assessments have taken place. And we also hold a parents' evening, typically in the spring term. Now, if you feel that your child might have additional barriers to learning and you wish to speak to our learning support team, I would warmly encourage you to contact them. The person to speak to probably is Mrs. Penellan, our Senko, and her email address is here. Please don't feel you have to write the email address down. It will be in the pack, the year 7 parent information pack that we've sent to you by post. Next slide, please. So just to give you a quick run through of the school day. The gates on Romney Avenue will open at 8 AM and children are allowed into the school from that point, where they, if they wish, can pay for breakfast there. The gates will shut promptly at 8:25, and we carry out a morning lineup for all students so that we can check at 8:25 that they have the right equipment and the right uniform to get on with the day. From 8:30, students will go into either form time or rehearsals, singing rehearsals, or into an assembly. From this, they will go into a range of lessons which are punctuated by a break and a lunchtime, and the end of lessons is at 3:10. Now, for 3 days a week, your child will take a co-curricular club which will last an hour. On the days that they have a co-curricular club, their school day will finish at 4:10. On days where they don't have a curricular club, they will have an early finish and they'll leave at 3:10. At the start of every term, your child will be able to choose which clubs they want to take and on which days. Next slide, please. So the final thing I'd like to talk about is homework. Now, homework is probably the one thing that many students moving from primary school to secondary school can end up finding a challenge. Simply put, there is a lot more homework at secondary school than you would typically find at primary. We set 2 pieces of homework every day, and each piece lasts about 30 minutes, with the exception of maths and English, which lasts an hour. The one way that you can support your child in their transition into secondary school is to help them plan out their homework. We suggest that each child does their homework on the evening that it's set. This stops homework building up over the week. And if possible, provide your child with a quiet area at their home where they can sit down away from distractions to complete homework. And we also suggest that you help prompt them to do homework, but don't actually help them to complete the homework yourself, because we want to make sure that we instill a culture of being able to do the work themselves. And if you could just press the next slide, please. And we do have an online virtual learning environment called Firefly. You will get the login details for that in September. And you can use Firefly to be able to track the homework that your child is being set. So not only can you find out firsthand from them what they have set, but you can also check yourself. And I warmly encourage you to do so. Next slide, please. I'm now going to pass over to Ms. Garrett, head of phase 1, who's going to talk about the heart.
Thank you, Wade. So I, as the head of phase, and that is therefore year 7 and 8, I'm in charge of all the pastoral curriculum and pastoral care at Trinity. Have to say I didn't expect to be in my living room welcoming you this evening, but it's a real pleasure to be welcoming you here and into a part of the school that I feel so strongly about, that we call the heart at Trinity. Next slide, please. So as you've sort of picked up already from Wade and Iron, the head is a big part of Trinity, that idea of care and respect. And we believe at Trinity that actually starts with a care and respect for ourselves. This then leads into respecting one another. We talk about a community at Trinity, and this doesn't just mean the people of Lockleys and the people of Bristol, but as a community, as a school. And therefore, we even put a pressure on the idea of the helping of the environment, that care and respect, not just for ourselves, for others, for our school, but also for the environment as a whole. And with small steps, we can therefore make those big changes. Next slide, please. So despite obviously only heading into our 2nd year at Trinity, you can clearly see from the staffing displayed here that how much importance we put on that pastoral care and pastoral support of the school. We have highly skilled and experienced staff from a range of different backgrounds in the pastoral system, all of whom have shown already huge commitment and compassion for the students of Trinity. You can see here as well, you've got the designated safeguarding lead as Dr. Nottingham, who has just spoken to us. We have 3 deputy designated safeguarding leads for when Dr. Nottingham is off-site, but you've also got a range of pastoral support leaders, such as Mr. Mackenzie, and joining us as well, Kerry and Sam in September. As Wade has already mentioned, at the bottom there, you've got the learning support, the senior learning support assistant, and we have a SENCO as well as a deputy SENCO to help your children with their learning needs inside and outside the classroom. Next slide, please. So at Trinity, you've already heard Dr. Nottingham refer to the Trinity Way. This is what we refer to as our behaviour system of school. Learning is really at the epicentre of what we do at Trinity. We run a strict but fair way of being, and our expectations do remain quite high to enable students to learn the most positive and effective way possible. And again, that's both inside and outside the classroom. The environment in the classroom is led by a mutual respect between the teacher or all staff in the classroom and the children. The students are actually rewarded for this idea of care and respect, so not just their academic rewards, but also for the emotional support and the emotional care that they show for one another, as well as for the teacher, such as helping clear up or any of the sort. We do give detentions at Trinity, and we ask for your respect in that and the way that we do that. We are professionals, and hopefully you'll get this from the times you've come to visit us at Trinity and also this presentation, that care and respect is at the centre of what we do. And if your child does receive a detention, it doesn't mean that we believe bad things. It's just the way of learning that we have at Trinity. At the end, though, all effort, both academic and pastoral, is rewarded. And we have this through a culture of effort and reward through something called reward points. This leads into a tutor point system, which is into a big competition. And Friday is always an exciting morning when Mr. Bailey announces to both students, and I have to say, and staff. We get quite competitive about this as well. So it's always really exciting to hear those Friday results come through and see which tutor group are winning. Next slide, please. So there obviously are a range of responsibilities as a student at Trinity, but also we ask that as parents and carers, you are a part of that. We ask that whether they're in their uniform or not, that they are actually representing Trinity around Bristol. And obviously as the 2nd year of Trinity, they are leading the way for those to come and actually leading the way in Bristol for the high expectations that we have of our school. We do therefore ask that students strictly do follow instructions given by all staff. This doesn't just mean teachers in the classroom, but whether they be in the canteen or in the corridors, we ask that they follow those instructions. We understand, however, that we don't always get things right. And that probably goes for us as adults, especially over the last 12 weeks, not just the children. So no matter, regardless of our age, we're out to help our students, teaching them the ways to respond to certain circumstances. So we have two ways of answering. If we're really feeling frustrated, we ask the children to think about whether they can actually respond with, I understand and I'm sorry, or maybe I understand, but actually is there a good time that we can talk about this later privately? And that might be that there's actually been a misunderstanding in the classroom, and we understand that. This helps us de-escalate situations and problems in the classroom and outside the classroom. But it also teaches students to use the best use of language, both again in school and outside of school, really trying to work on children's communication. We understand as well that as parents and carers, there is always a concern around social media. It would be naive of us to assume that we're not going to face those kind of problems in the future of Trinity. And actually, we ask that you work together with us to guide your children through the best and the safest way to represent themselves on social media. We're not saying that it can't happen. We're just saying that we ask you to work with us in ensuring that they're doing that the safest way possible. Next slide, please. So with regards to the uniform, I'm sure a lot of you are very excited because you've seen a lot of, 120 of our Trinity students wearing this uniform around. We have had a lot of compliments from the locals in the area, and even the uniform company have asked to display our uniform in their shop window, because they're that proud of what it looks like, and we are as well. It is a comfortable and it's quite a simple uniform, and it's also affordable. There are discounts available for pupil premium students, and I will come to that in the next slide. The uniform company has actually been rebranded, and it's now available from Monk House shops. That doesn't mean that the supplier is still the same, so you don't need to worry about what it looks like, but it just means that there's been some slight additions, which I will come to. We help our students each morning with their uniform. We understand that sometimes you might rush to school and it hasn't been the morning that you wanted it to be. So whether that be on the gate initially, or as Wade said, we do ask students to line up in called roll call at the beginning of the day, and at that moment it helps the tutors and the partial leads can check that ties are in the right place and top buttons are done up and the skirt length is correct. And we might just prompt some elements such as their shoes and their socks, giving them the opportunity to make sure that's changed the next day. So again, we're not expecting it to be perfect on each morning, but we do give them those little prompts and support to make sure they're looking smart. Next slide, please. So as I said, there's been a slight change with the uniform information, but also I think some of you are quite concerned around the COVID-19 situation at the moment of whether you'd be able to go and try on uniform. We have had reports from Monk House themselves that there will be one-to-one appointments that will be made in advance online. And that way your child and you as a parent or carer can go along with the children to try on the uniform and make sure you're buying the right size. They are aiming to be open by the 29th of June, and the new stores are placed in Stoke Gifford. They have already in place a clear social distancing put in place, and even down to they are cleaning the uniform before the next child puts it on to ensure that there's no contamination between uniforms. You will receive much more information about this next week, by the middle of the end of next week, from Katie Hughes. You will receive an email about that. Next slide, please. So with regards to pupil premium, I'm sure a number of you are aware about this as free school meals, but if you are entitled to free school meals, it doesn't mean that it will generate automatically. You will need to reapply for the free school meals, and if you think you're eligible, we would encourage you to apply, and if you're struggling with the application process, if you email, the link is here again, as Wade said, it will be in your handbook. But if you email the inquiries, we're more than happy to help you with that application, because we know that sometimes the computer and internet skills aren't always how we'd like them to be. So the most important message here is that if you are already receiving free school meals from the primary school, that won't automatically generate into secondary. So you must make sure you reapply. You can find that link on our website, or if you obviously search onto the government website, there'll also be, but please do send any queries through to us via email or call us up on the phone. Right, next slide, please. And just to finish finally, I'm sure you've got the message from what I've been trying to tell you, but we welcome a lot of home engagement, and we welcome parent and carer support as much as you possibly can. We do run, that stands for parent teacher group sessions, so that we have termly parent teacher group sessions, and we also run smaller sessions. If you've got any advice and you'd like to know a little bit more about the partial curriculum, we do welcome you to come into school at certain times and talk that through with normally myself as the person that writes the curriculum. I have developed a rigorous and detailed curriculum as it's a part of the school that I'm really quite passionate about. It focuses on the spiritual, moral, social and cultural elements of growing up, but also touches upon physical and mental health, which is obviously a large part of young people's lives. And there is also an element of understanding healthy relationships and sex education within that. However, what's different about Trinity is from year 7, we look at something called preparedness, which is ensuring that our young people are prepared for their careers and that transition for when they leave school in the future. We as a school actually don't stop there. It's not just about us educating the children on this, but we also, alongside what Wade has already referenced with their academic reports, we have a report which is based on what's called the character framework. And this is just, rather than just based on grades, we actually look at a child's, their self-direction, their resilience, their self-control and their communication skills. And if this is something that needs help in certain lessons, then that will be shown on the report and the teachers will talk to parents and carers about what needs to change. I'd like to just finish by highlighting again the positive rapport that you will see and witness between parents and staff and students. I think there's an amazing link at Trinity between them, and it's a school that is actually led by care and respect amongst not just staff but students, student to student, staff to staff, and also of course staff to students. So I'll now pass it back over to their head teacher, Irene Bailey, who is going to talk to you a little bit about Soul.
Thank you very much, Miss Garrod. I hope you felt that I got better at the slideshow there. It definitely warmed up, didn't it? A couple of things as going through that sprung to mind before I continue talking about Soul. First of all, we are a Google-based school and we use Chromebooks a lot. If you are thinking about buying a laptop or a device for your child, we would highly recommend that you buy a Chromebook or a laptop that can run a Google Suite on it. And we'll send out some information about that. In this day and age, we're finding more and more that students without access to computers at home find things harder. And we want to really encourage and support our students in that. So please do let us know if that's a problem at home and we will look to help you in that. Secondly, at the bottom of the screen, you will see the Q&A icon just down there. I can see that there are 5 questions already, which we'll come to answer. We've already downloaded a lot of information so far. So do think about if there's anything you're not sure about, please pop it down in a question and we'll try and answer it as we go along today. So I'm going to talk now about the final part of the Trinity, which is a soul for us. And for soul, we're referring to really engaging. I guess it's based around the fact that we're a music specialist school, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about music specialism in a moment, but also performing arts, really key for us, sport, and as Miss Garrod was saying, employability. And we've got some really great partners and partnerships which we started, and obviously we will look to continue after lockdown. We work closely with Trinity Laban, Conservatoire of Dance, Bristol Old Vic, Bristol Plays Music, the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London, and the Royal Welsh College, among many others. So what does it mean to be a music specialist school? Well, here's a quote which I love, and this is from some research that was done in 1999, so a while ago now, but Pupils who learn musical instruments outperform students who do not learn music in areas of intelligence, developmental skills, academic performance, and social skills. Furthermore, they are able to transfer their music knowledge and skills to other areas of academic excellence. And for me, I've been a music teacher for most of my career, and I know that students who get involved in music get involved in school, get involved in their learning, and seem to do well across the board. And this research seems to back that up. Music specialism doesn't mean that we are in the business of trying to force everybody to become professional musicians. Quite the opposite. We want young people to have their lives enriched by music and to get that opportunity to try music, maybe for the first time. That means that we have a belief in excellence, which is sometimes an unpopular word, but actually mastery and excellence are some key ideas at Trinity. But also inclusion, getting everybody involved. There's pathways for everybody, whether you're aiming to become a concert pianist or whether you just want to sing some pop songs. More space in the music curriculum than most schools, so we do 2 lessons a week of music, and we do have some of the best instrumental and vocal teachers in the city, and they're all handpicked and individually interviewed and auditioned. 2 important pathways that you understand. I guess the first one is around what you might call traditional instrumental lessons or vocal lessons. And we have those here. So those are lessons that you would pay for at a normal rate, and the information is in your booklet. Students would leave their curriculum lesson, for example, their English lesson, go and have their piano lesson or whatever it is for half an hour, and then come back to their curriculum lesson. Those lessons are on a rotation, so they shouldn't miss the same curriculum lesson every week. But one key thing about Trinity is something called Trailblazers, and this is separate from those paid lessons. Trailblazers is an opportunity for your child to start an instrument for the first time. And it's heavily reduced in price, so that the school cover most of the cost of that. And what happens is, normally your child would have a chance to try the instruments in July. Now, obviously, that can't happen this year. So we're going to produce some videos to send out to you and ask your child if they want to start one of the instruments. The videos will be done by the instrumental teachers, and they'll sort of explain the instrument and play a little bit to them. And then if you would like to start, if your child would like to start an instrument in September, you just have to fill out the form, let us know, and we'll have that instrument ready for you. Sport is another really important thing for us, and I think probably really important to say around the soul aspect of Trinity is that there are 3 things which I think are really important. Number 1 is that young people find their spark, maybe find something they've not had a chance to do, just have a lot of fun. Okay, that's really important. I think I've said in the open events, I'm always really frustrated that some of the big private schools, if you look at their brochures, it always starts off with a picture of somebody playing the saxophone. And I firmly believe that every child at Trinity Academy should have the opportunity to try a whole range of things which they might not have had the opportunity to do. But secondly, in doing that, we are deepening our relationships with each other. So I know for a fact that if I'm doing a choir rehearsal with a group of young people, we have a different relationship than if it was just me in the front of a class. And that's really important for us, relationships between students and students, students and staff and students. And that's a real great place to do that. And thirdly, we know that employers and higher education are looking for those soft skills which aren't often part of the curriculum. So I know for a fact that employers are looking for things like communication skills, flexibility, commitment, resilience, teamwork, the ability to lead a group or to know when somebody's leading and to listen. Those key skills are what employers are telling us our young people need, and they are going to get those in the soul section of Trinity Academy. Sport, really important for us, team sports especially, a big focus on rugby and football, but actually as part of our co-curricular offer, lots of different sports. This year we've offered table tennis, volleyball, basketball, boxing, netball. We've got a great relationship with Bristol Bears and Bristol Rovers, and they teach our curriculum sport this year and next year, and they also coach our football teams and our rugby teams. Worth saying, I know Dr. Nottingham said it earlier, at Trinity, it's compulsory that students do 3 extracurricular clubs a week. And so they'll stay at school till 4:10, 3 times a week. They can choose which clubs they do, and we're very clear which nights they run on, but that is a compulsory part of our life together at Trinity. So we talked about the head, a place of learning, and the heart, a place of care and respect, and the soul, a place of engagement. And I'm just going to finish off with some kind of general points which you might be concerned about or have some questions about. First of all is accommodation. We know and we knew that we were going to be in temporary accommodation for your first year at Trinity next year. And that's all in place, and there's no problem there at all. The building, and I'll show you some pictures of the building in a moment, the new building is going up very quickly. Originally, the plan was that we were going to enter that building by June of next year. Now, with the COVID situation, work had to stop for a number of weeks, and so that's been pushed back. At the moment, it's the date of handing over is September the 1st, which is really too late for us to get in formally in our 3rd year. So there's 2 pathways. Either they're going to speed up the work on the new building and can hand it over before then, in which case we will start your 2nd year, your year 8 in the new building, or we've already planned and had funding for temporary accommodation for that 3rd year, and we have a site just up the road where that accommodation will go for that year's year 7. Your year group will stay on this site until we are confident that that building is totally ready. But it is looking like a fantastic building, and I'm hoping this video will work. So if you you should be able to see this. I'm going to just play through. This is a 3D fly-through of the building, and on the outside of the building, and I'll just talk you through it as we go through. Oops, that's not right. Here we go. So flying in, you can see on the right-hand side the all-weather football pitch. It's a under 16 full-size pitch, and just where my pointer is there, that's going to be an outside 3-court playground area with basketball courts and netball courts in. We're coming down Romney Avenue. Lovely close-up of some trees and the pavement. And then we turn right, and this will be the student entrance. This is where you'll come in to school. Have a quick glance to the front of the school. And we carry on through. On the right-hand side, we have bike sheds. There are 2 sets of bike sheds on site, one here and one at the back of the site. And now we're looking at that playground. The houses aren't white, by the way. Just glimpsing into the classroom there, that's the music department on the left-hand side. And then students will walk down this walkway. Keep an eye on this big wall on the right-hand side. I'm going to show you a picture of what that actually looks like in a moment. Quick glance back into the music department, and then on our right-hand side, we can see that playground again. Carrying on through to the back of the school, this is where your students will come in. In hindsight, it would be good to have some sort of inspirational music at this point, wouldn't it? But here we are. And then this is the student entrance to the school. Students will come in here every morning. And as they come through the door, they enter the atrium, the main atrium of the building, which will be where the canteen is. Quick look at that. And then outside, we've got this lovely sort of theatre area with steps where students can sit and socialise and eat their packed lunch if they want to, kind of amphitheatre feel. Going up the steps of that, there's a top area, social area, and we'll have some picnic tables and places for people just to relax and socialise together. Looking around to the back of the school, the white bit there is the sports hall. The bit with the gold kind of surround is the back of the concert hall. And this is what the building looks like now. So this is the front of the school at the left-hand side. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the back of the school, the last bit of steel framework went up. You can see the sports hall framework there. And that's the yellow wall there. That was that big wall I was talking about. That's all in place. Some internal pictures there. Again, that's the atrium, which we just saw. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a 500-seater concert hall in the building. And so that's information for the new school. A couple more things before we go to your questions. Normally, we have your students join us for a day in July to do some induction work with them, and that's unfortunately can't happen this year. So we will be sending out some induction material. We've got some really, we hope, engaging work and some tasks for your students to do, which we hope are going to be great fun, that they can do over the summer holidays and bring back to us. And we're really hoping that we can do some meetings with your students online, and we'll be sending out some more information about that. We haven't got a parent-teacher association this year, but it's something that we're really keen to set up. So if you are keen to be involved in our parent-teacher association or help us set that up, please let us know. We really want to get that going at the start of next year. And also, we are a small team. This year we're 12 people in total, and that includes administrator, site team. We've got 6 full-time staff and 3 part-time staff. So we don't have that big spread of talents which maybe other schools have, full schools have. So if you have anything you would like to offer as a parent, here's some ideas, some reading partners or gardening or landscape, some PR work and marketing work, or any other committed professional offers. And what I mean by that is something, you know, it is a commitment. We're looking for you to commit some time and some expertise to us. But if you think, actually, I've got something I could offer to Trinity and it would really help us, we'd love to hear from you. Inquiries at trinityacademybristol.org is the place to contact. Good, that's probably enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Potter. Mrs. Potter is our head of maths, and she's been reading your questions as you've been sending them in. She'll kind of aggregate the questions and pass them out to the appropriate person, and then I'll speak to you just before we finish.
Okay, so good evening. I'm actually going to ask Mr. Bailey a question straight back, which the first question is, do we pay for the co-curricular clubs? Mr. Bailey.
I can't find them. Sorry, I was doing so well on the tech and then it just disappeared. Do you pay for no, the co-curricular clubs are free, and that's a really important part of what we do. The instrumental lessons during the day are the only thing that you would pay for, and that's optional, but co-curricular clubs are free.
Okay, thank you. Apologies, but another question from Ms. Bailey. Are you able to share any information on September plans regarding capacity with COVID restrictions and whether Year 7 will be prioritised?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and the answer is no. We've got some initial planning happening, and really I think the national scene is changing so quickly that every time we kind of come up with a plan, it's already out of date. We will we probably won't prioritise Year 7, but Year 7 and Year 8 will get an equal sort of bite of the cherry, as it were. We're very, very keen to get both groups in as much as possible in a safe way. So we will watch the national guidelines really closely. The safety of your children and our staff is obviously paramount, but we are really keen to get your students in. As soon as we know and as soon as we have our plans in place, we will let you know.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a question for Dr. Nottingham. Is the homework at weekends or just weeknights?
So I can confirm the homework is set for the weekday evenings, and we don't set homework for the weekend. Your child can carry it over to the weekend if they want to, but I would always advise do the homework on the day that it's set, and that then means you're free to enjoy your weekends.
Thank you. Okay, a question for Miss Garrett. Is there any second-hand uniform to buy yet?
Unfortunately not, because as you know, you're only the second year to arrive at Trinity, so no one's yet grown out of their uniform. It is definitely something that we're looking to do, and we will keep you posted as and when we have the uniform to offer for second-hand, but at the moment there isn't any.
Okay, and another question for you, Ms. Garrett. Is mindfulness taught at Trinity?
So at Trinity, we have a number of different ways that we interact with the idea of mindfulness. We do touch upon it in PHSE, which is during tutor time. We often also talk about it outside of the classroom. So we have a room called Room 1, which is used as a bit of a quiet space. But we've also had the parent governor has been in touch. Her and I have been liaising, and sadly it was meant to happen just before lockdown, where we were setting up what was going to be called the Heart Space. And this was a week-long room that was going to be set up, and it is something that we're looking to go going into next year, to sort of teach children a bit more about mindfulness and how to engage with themselves and their emotions.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a couple of music questions for Mr. Bailey. So the first of those is, I noticed the choir is audition only. I hope my daughter would get in, but to save disappointment, will there be scope for a non-audition choir that will be more inclusive?
Yeah, sorry, that might be bad communication from me. So we have two big choirs, all children sing in either the boys' choir or the girls' choir, and actually that's a compulsory part of one of their mornings. So this year, the girls sang on a Wednesday morning and the boys sang on a Friday morning from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. And then the idea was that we were going to have a sort of a third choir, which was for the students who want to take their singing a little bit more seriously, which was the audition choir. Actually, in the end this year, we had about 20 students want to do it, and we just ran it with them. We want to try and build a kind of culture where the boys' choir and the girls' choir, which is everybody, is that place where we get singing going. And then what I think I wrote in the handbook, the audition choir, is where students who want to take their singing a bit more seriously can go. The audition is not a big thing, and it's more about the fact that you want to audition would mean that you're in.
Great, and another music question. Our daughter has a music specialist in place. Will there be additional information about this or a separate induction?
Yeah, so with the music specialists, so we've got 12 music specialists joining us next year. What happens is I will do a meeting with you as parents, with your child, and we will just discuss where they're at as musicians. So we have some music specialists who are quite surprised they're a music specialist and perhaps have never done much music before, but have that innate musicality, which enabled them to get through the music specialist application route. Or other students who have been playing instruments for years, and so we find out where you are, and we discuss what the opportunities are for the first year, and it will certainly involve some sort of joint project with the music specialist from Bristol Cathedral Choir School. It normally involves, in normal times, concert visits and some composition work as well.
Thank you. Okay, a question for Dr. Nottingham. How often do the co-curricular clubs on offer change?
Okay, thank you. So the clubs change every full term. So there will be a new round of potential clubs that your child can choose from in September, in January, and in around April.
Thank you. Okay, another question for Dr. Nottingham. Are there any opportunities for computer science, either in lessons or in clubs?
I think one thing we've certainly learned about lockdown is the need for really good sort of computer literacy with all students, and we've got a clear plan for next year of offering some form of basic sort of computer use and that sort of learning. And we're also always on the lookout for people who can offer some form of programming, potentially as a co-curricular club. And I would invite anyone who has that level of expertise and who can also commit a significant amount of time to be able to contact us using the inquiries number.
Thank you. Okay, for Miss Garrett, as a family, we believe that a personal touch is extremely important. Do you think that the students could meet their new teacher via a 10-minute Zoom meeting prior to arriving at the school?
So I think that's a very good question. There's a number of different things in the pipeline that we're organising. The first thing is actually just a tour. Obviously, we've just seen the amazing new building, but we are looking to I'm going to do a video tour of the school. This won't be a hugely professional video because it will be made by me, but I think it's an important part of students to see that. And during that, we will have introductions to all the teachers. So some brief introductions from the teachers of who they are and what subject they teach. I think it depends on the circumstances and situation in September on how we do with Zoom meetings or video meetings. It is something that we have been doing with our current students, and if the situation is still similar in September, it's certainly something that we're going to look into.
Thank you. Okay, for Mr. Bailey, in the future, are there planned opportunities for children to compete at higher level sports or county level tests/trials?
I think we really strongly believe, as I said earlier, about that kind of inclusive nature of sport and music and the performing arts, but also the excellence side of it. And we are really keen that our students excel in where they find their passion. So the answer is yes. The answer is that we would really, really encourage that. And we would certainly look at, if students got to kind of national level and would need to do some extra training, we would look at working with families to make sure that's a possibility.
Great, and just a couple more questions. Okay, so Mr. Bailey, can you tell us about school dinners?
School dinners are very close to my heart. School dinners, so students have an option of 2 different hot dinners, a vegetarian and halal option, and a jacket potato, and then there's usually cold options as well. We have just changed our caterers. So up until the end of this year, we've been working with Chartwell's, and we changed to a different company, I can't remember their name, next year. So actually, it's a little bit difficult for me to say, but we're changing to that company because we think they're going to be better, and we're really excited to work for them. When we get to the new building, we have a bespoke designed kitchen, and there will be a full offer of different hot and cold meals and snacks.
Great. Okay, Dr. Nottingham, there's a question about people finding out when people find out about tutor groups, which tutor groups students are in.
Yes, I think clearly with the changes to induction this year, we would normally provide that information at the start of July. We are wanting to find out more about each child before we are putting them into form groups. We have sent out a link within one of the parent bulletins, which has a parental questionnaire. What I would like is that if every parent could just answer that questionnaire, that will give us some of the information that we can then base the placing of form groups for that. I think to answer the question directly, it would probably be something towards the end of July.
Can I just say something about that, Mrs. Potter? So this is always quite a worry for students. So first of all, our criteria for putting students in tutor groups are that we split up twins. So we've got 5 sets of twins this year, and I think we've got quite a lot of twins next year. Bristol, you produce twins. It's very impressive. So we think they should be split up in tutor groups. We then try and have a mix of an equal mix of boys and girls in tutor groups, and then we try and have an equal mix of different ability students in tutor groups. Last year, I fielded a lot of worried parents about tutor groups when students were allocated the tutor group, and to all of them I said, it will work, it will be fine. Give it a month or 2, and then if your child is really unhappy, then we can have a conversation. But our policy is not to change tutor groups. Once we did that and students started, no parent and no child asked to change tutor group. So I would say it is a really kind of worrying one, that one, isn't it? That you want your child to be in the right tutor group, possibly with students they knew already. But Don't worry about it. It will work. It always does work. And yeah, we'll let you know as soon as we've got those lists.
Okay, lovely. And I think we'll have the final question now. So there's been a couple of people asking about, is there any way for parents to link up together? They're particularly asking about support with transport from school, or if not, are there council or school-led buses to help pupils from the wider catchment area get into school? And I'll ask that to Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. An easy question. So in terms of buses to school, we do just use the first bus routes. There is a bus route, I think it's the number 24 that comes up from the avenue. I think it's a really good idea to try and link up with parents to share travel, and that speaks really clearly to our values around caring for the environment. So we will look at a way where if you would like to explore car share or lift share or something like that, or cycling in together, we can do that. I think Ms. Garrett has got something to add.
There is already a Trinity Facebook group, which I know parents sometimes communicate on, of positive communication. It's obviously a public group that I know that some parents have linked to lift share and organised transport on there.
So that's the Trinity Academy official Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think we'll finish the questions there. There are a few more, but as we said, we're not going to be able to answer them all now, but we will send out the Q&A after the session.
Great, thank you everybody for your questions. I think I've lost my sharing screen, but that's not a big issue. A couple of things to say to finish. First of all, we are moving now after this evening to thinking about, well, obviously thinking really carefully about your children arriving in September and all the things around that. But also we start thinking about admissions for the year after. And so we have a number of events coming up. July the 15th is the first event where we're going to do an online session like this. If you, could I ask you to spread the word that Trinity Open events are starting in July, and it would be great to see those full. We were really pleased this year that we had 315 on-time applicants for Trinity, and we have a large number of people appealing to get into the school and a large waiting list. So that's really thrilling for us, but we don't take that for granted. Finally, I hope you found this a useful time together. It's been very strange for us. It's very strange to kind of speak to an audience where you have no sense of feedback at all. For all I know, you're all asleep or wandered off. But I hope you found it useful and some good information. The information booklet we sent out, we spent a lot of time trying to get as much information in there as possible. I think the final thing for me to say is these are this is a really strange time, isn't it? And everybody is worried, and it feels a little bit difficult at the moment. But at Trinity, we have not lost our vision of what a world-class education is. And we believe we're building something here that's really special. And we have a huge ambition for your child, not just academically, but in terms of their head and their heart and their soul. We're really excited to welcome you to our community, both as adults and as students. We're really looking to getting to know you and to working with you for the next 5 to 7 years. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you to all the panelists, to Mrs. Potter, to Dr. Nottingham, and to Ms. Garrett, and thank you to the CST ICT team who are behind the scenes making sure it all worked, and apologies for my poor scrolling through the PowerPoint. Thank you very much, and good night.